On October 1st and 4th, WWE will hold their annual draft. The draft has been a come and go event in the WWE, and it's given us some shocking moments and some great moves. This year's will hopefully inject some new life into stories, help with character growth, and give us some amazing matches in the long term. In this video, I'll be drafting the Raw and Smackdown roster with a few call-ups from NXT. Two things I'll say before this video gets started is that I think WWE should seriously consider ending the brand split because of the recent releases and just how depleted the roster feels. They should just have one solid roster on Raw and Smackdown, focus on storylines and character progression. That would be just fine. The second thing is I'm going to do a mixture of what I'd like to see and also keep it somewhat balanced on the two rosters. So I hope you enjoy the video, and I'm also trying out some new graphics which took me a long time, so let me know what you think of those in the comments below. Starting things off with the show that we can all agree is WWE's best weekly show, and that is SmackDown. The past year and a bit has been amazing for SmackDown, and here's how I would change things up for the blue brand. Roman Reigns stays on SmackDown. He's done such a fantastic job crafting that show into his own and carrying it for months that him going anywhere else would just be wrong. They're building up Roman with this monstrous universal title reign, and he's already had some great feuds against Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, John Cena, and Edge that I think he needs to continue building his momentum with more feuds and being even more dominant. He's brought prestige to the universal title, and now he feels like he's one of, if not the biggest star in the wrestling industry today. AJ Styles goes to SmackDown. The first big move I would make would be sending AJ Styles to SmackDown and breaking up the team of Omos and Styles. The fact of the matter is that AJ Styles is one of the best competitors ever, and he needs to be on his own before he's done. I think him going back into the main event scene on SmackDown as a babyface would be amazing. Imagine a feud between AJ Styles and Roman Reigns, just like it was in 2016, only this time the roles are reversed. It would be something new for you to sink your teeth into while giving Roman a credible new threat. Seth Rollins stays on SmackDown. For the longest time, the match WWE has been teasing is Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, and for that reason, I would keep Seth Rollins on SmackDown. If all else fails, you revert to that storyline, and the history is all right there. It's a bloodbath of a feud just waiting to explode, and I could see Seth Rollins turning face when he's completely done with Edge sometime in the near future. Next, Drew McIntyre makes the move over to SmackDown because he just needs a change of scenery. He's been toiling around on Raw, and since the Lashley feud, he just feels like he needs a complete reset. He could be in the mix with guys like Styles and Rollins, and if WWE can't manage to get The Rock for Roman Reigns, they have Drew McIntyre right there. We saw how well those two could perform in the ring and in promos during the Thunderdome era, so just give these two a full-fledged program. The sky is the limit. Also coming over to SmackDown from Raw is Keith Lee. Look, the one focal point on SmackDown is Roman Reigns, and what we presume is going to be this long run of dominance. Lee would give Roman another feud until his possible match with The Rock at WrestleMania. The other thing is that Keith Lee just hasn't been utilized well since coming onto the main roster. Everything that made him feel big in NXT and in the 2020 Royal Rumble has been stripped back. We need to get Keith Lee onto SmackDown where he can mix it up in the mid-card scene and also transition into top-tier feuds, because Keith Lee's talent has not yet been exposed to enough WWE audiences. Jeff Hardy makes a transition from Raw to SmackDown. Jeff Hardy is one of the best superstars and daredevils that we've ever been witness to in this generation, and him chasing the 24/7 championship is a complete joke. I think this would be another great opponent for Roman Reigns if you needed Jeff Hardy to be at the top of the card, but I also think he could be great mixing it up with the next person on this list, and that is Damien Priest. Ever since Damien Priest made his main roster debut, he's been utilized brilliantly, and I would like for him to bring the US title over to SmackDown and just continue with the US Open Challenge. WWE is in this weird state of flux right now, and I hope that they continue to build up Priest as the guy just has all the tools. He could mix it up with guys like Styles, Hardy, Lee, and McIntyre, and it would just be fun to watch. Coming to SmackDown from Monday Night Raw is John Morrison. One move to shake things up slightly would be Austin Theory moving from NXT to the main roster, and I have him going to SmackDown. I think Theory is a great talent, but I also think he works well in a comedy or assistant role. If Seth Rollins gets so obsessed with Roman Reigns on SmackDown, I think having a guy like Theory could play well into the past because Theory and Rollins were together for a while. There you go. Also, he's really young, so building him up doesn't hurt either. Continuing to round out the mid-card is Ricochet. We can all appreciate Ricochet's in-ring skills. He's one of the best, but he lacks the mic and character ability. We've seen characters like Apollo become refreshed on SmackDown. Maybe Ricochet can do the same. I'd keep Cesaro on SmackDown and have him stay in that upper mid-card scene where he could feud with guys like Priest or Keith Lee. Or, also heading to SmackDown is Sheamus. With Sheamus in there, you could have subtle little teases of the Bar getting back together. They could get back together, win the tag team titles, and then finally have a one-on-one feud for a mid-card title, and I think that would be amazing. For the women, I have Becky Lynch staying on SmackDown. She's one of the biggest stars in the women's division and sports entertainment. Also, with Seth staying on SmackDown, I gotta keep Becky on there too because WWE usually keep IRL couples together, so there you go. I was a little bit cautious on this one because it's one of the matches that's dependent on the winner at Extreme Rules, but Becky Lynch stays on SmackDown, even though I could totally see a scenario where WWE actually wants her to go to Raw to inject some new life into that show. Sasha Banks remains on the blue brand. I think with Becky Lynch back, it would create an interesting feud between those two. We've seen it before, but this time with Sasha as the face and Becky as the heel, it could be a ton of fun. Another move from Raw to freshen things up would be Asuka going to SmackDown. Naomi stays on SmackDown. I see some big things in the future with what's been going on recently and her wanting matches. Her joining the Bloodline would be absolutely spectacular and would bring new life to her character. Another move I would make is Rhea Ripley moving to SmackDown. We had shades of Rhea and Becky going at it in late 2019, and I think that feud could help build Rhea up a little bit more. I feel like she's wrestled everyone on Raw and she's just in limbo at the moment, so going to SmackDown wouldn't be bad for her. Ember Moon goes to SmackDown. I think a call up for Ember Moon could be great because what they're doing with the new NXT, it just seems like they're getting rid of all these older veterans. So I mean, it could be refreshing and it would also give you another body on that roster. I have Liv Morgan staying on SmackDown. I think there's hints at possibly a program between Liv and Becky. I think it could basically be the building of another Becky all over again because of how much the crowd is behind Liv. Rounding out the women's division on SmackDown, Toni Storm coming up from NXT, Indy Hartwell. You have Nikki Cross, and Shayna Baszler is the final one to round out the SmackDown women's division. For the tag teams, I think it's pretty safe to assume that the Usos will remain on SmackDown with Roman Reigns. Viking Raiders go over to SmackDown. I don't really see what else they're going to do on Raw because, spoiler alert, I'm keeping RK Bro on Raw. Having them defeat such a likable team just wouldn't be the smartest idea. Dominic and Rey Mysterio stay on SmackDown. Mansoor and Ali move to SmackDown. Another random pairing, Commander Aziz and Omos. Just imagine the work rate in those matches. I think the SmackDown roster looks like a lot of fun from what I've picked out so far, so let's move over to Raw. The thing with Raw is that it just hasn't been very enjoyable. So I think WWE should just go down the route of just letting characters be themselves and develop, because when you're so garbage, you can only get better. The current WWE champion stays on Raw. I think now that Big E has the WWE championship, he needs to carry that Raw brand and himself forward. He needs to build momentum and have big feuds and show WWE fans that he's a top tier star. He can blur seriousness and goofiness together. He's one of the guys that WWE just needs to let excel on Raw in order to build up new stars. With Big E staying on Raw, the New Day also remain there. I think they just have strong marketability and they never get stale. Plus, if Big E were to ever turn heel, the New Day is right there. We have a possibility of a New Day split one day. Who knows? Even though I doubt WWE will do it because of merchandise reasons, so all the power to them, Finn Balor makes the move from SmackDown to Raw. I mean, I assume that Roman Reigns will win at Extreme Rules, so when you have that feud done with, there isn't much more for Finn to do. Why not just have him make his way over to Raw? I think that would be the best situation for him. I think on Raw he could mix it up with Big E if Finn were to turn heel. That could be a fun story to tell. LA Knight goes to Raw. I think LA Knight just has star written all over him. If you listen to him enough, he sounds literally like The Rock. He has the look, he has the amazing in-ring ability, and he could thrive on Raw. Seeing what's happened with NXT 2.0, I don't think he's penciled in for that much, although plans could change. So having him on Raw would inject a breath of fresh air into that show. With that, I have Bobby Lashley and MVP staying on Raw. Obviously, Lashley just lost the WWE Championship, so he'll probably chase that for a while before moving back into the mid-card. Kevin Owens makes the move over to Raw. I think he's done a lot on SmackDown up until this point, and there really isn't that much more to do. I think maybe a heel turn and a feud for the WWE Championship with Big E would be amazing. Maybe even a run with the WWE Championship. His versatility is just amazing. He can play any role, so having him on Raw would be a huge benefit. Especially since KO's contract is set to expire soon, they will have to present him as a credible star because he's very talented. We all know wherever Kevin Owens goes, Sami Zayn also goes, and I think Sami Zayn finally has a defined character and it will work really well on Raw. Nakamura and Boogs go to Raw with the IC title with them. Cameron Grimes moves from NXT to Raw. I think Cameron Grimes making the move to Raw would be beneficial. He just understands sports entertainment to a T. The guy is just a living, breathing ball of charisma, and he just gets it. It's as simple as that. The whole rich guy gimmick could work wonders on that show, and I think people who are unfamiliar with his work will instantly fall in love with the act. Happy Corbin moves over to Raw. I think WWE can have a lot of fun there. The Miz stays on Raw. Karrion Kross also stays on Raw. Because I think WWE should just build him up as a force. Give him more time on the mic. Let him flesh his character out a little bit more. Give him Scarlett back. There you go. Rounding out the Raw roster, I have Jinder Mahal, Cedric Alexander, Humberto Carrillo, Angel Garza, R-Truth, and all his 24/7 buddies. Jackson Riker's dumbass can stay on Raw. Elias stays on Raw, and Apollo Crews rounds out that men's roster. Let's move over to the women's division, and what I've done here is made some moves and also introduced some new talents from NXT who very much fit into the Raw vibe. Charlotte stays on Monday Night Raw. She's done such a great job on Raw as the heel in most feuds, and we could have some potential star-making feuds with her as the focal point. Bianca Belaire goes to Monday Night Raw. This is another tough one because we're waiting the result of Bellaire versus Lynch, but I think Bianca should head over to Raw because at this point she's already feuded with Banks, Lynch, and Bayley, so you run the risk of having the character hit a huge wall if they just keep going on that same show. Alexa Bliss stays on Raw. Frankie Monet and Dakota Kai are called up from NXT to infuse some new talent into that mix. Zelina Vega moves over to Raw. Carmella also makes the move to Raw. Eva Marie and Doudrop stay on Raw. And then Raw has the women's tag team champions, Tamina and Natalya. Also coming up are Kaden Carter and Kacy Catanzaro. Nia Jax stays on Raw. Nox and Shotzi also go to Raw. Scarlett makes her Raw debut and reunites with Karrion Kross. That would make Kross feel like a badass again. You could also have Scarlett wrestle. For Raw's tag teams, RK Bro stays on Raw. Randy Orton and Riddle stay put right there. I think that's potentially a huge story that WWE have on their hands. That's a WrestleMania worthy match right there if they play their cards right, and Riddle could become a huge star. The Street Profits move from SmackDown to Raw. My whole thought process behind this move is that I don't see the Usos losing the titles anytime soon, so why have the Street Profits lost in the shuffle on SmackDown? Montez and Angelo, they're going to Raw, but yo, can we please push Montez forward? That guy is going to be huge one day. The Alpha Academy make the move from SmackDown to Raw. Shanky and Veer stay on Raw. Lucha House Party to Raw. And the Dirty Dogs round out the Raw Tag Team division. My goal with Raw is to just let characters develop. Call up some new names and just let them grow their characters and have some solid stories. Just let them breathe, because like I said earlier, if you're that bad, you're only just gonna get better. Introduce these new characters and use Raw as a breeding ground for more talent. Some loose ends to tie up. I didn't draft Edge, Lesnar, Cena, or Goldberg. Those guys are very much so considered part-timers, so they'll usually swing back to whichever show they want without rhyme or reason. Although if I had to do it, Lesnar goes to Raw to face Lashley, Edge goes to SmackDown to feud with AJ, and the other two, do what you want with those guys. Also, Bayley is currently injured, so when she returns, I could see her going to SmackDown to feud with Becky Lynch. And there it is, the 2021 WWE Draft. I did this as fast as I could, save as much of your time as possible. I tried to do as much of the roster as I could. If I missed anyone, sorry. I just hope this draft in a few weeks is fun. I hope we get some new stars on the roster. I hope that Raw becomes good again. I hope that the whole product is just fun to watch again. And honestly, I just hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know who you want to go to what brand in the comments below. As always, I read each and every one of them. I try to reply to as many as I can. As always, stay safe, take care.